G'day guys, as a part of celebrating the launch of the new TelePLANTathic vertical garden product, I want to give you a free tutorial on how to make your own vertical garden completely from recycled materials, a solar powered vertical garden. So I'm going to show you how to do it step by step. Let's go. Step number 8 is to get your water tank ready. So with the measurements that I've given you, build the frame which will fit perfectly around this size tank. This is a 20-litre tank and the design will fit perfectly around this, but I'll show you just as an example on this tank here. So you can put this straight into here, straight into the threaded section with a little bit of plumber's tape, and then just screw that into place. Once you've got your tap in, it's handy to have one of these with a valve on it so you can turn it on and off. So once you've put this fitting in place, you can get a 13mm tube to go straight onto this. And what I've got on the other end is a connection. So these are a hose connector, so you can connect and unconnect your tank as you need to. So this is designed for 13mm tube. So that end goes in here, and that's got a little plug on the end of it to stop the water coming out when you don't want it to drip. And then that can be disconnected nice and easily if you need to take the tank out and clean it. So once you've put this end in, you can then put this over your connection here. So slide on the cobber clip. I like to use these stainless steel cobber clips. Slide that on over the hose first, and then guide that on there. Oh, put that over the connection, and then just connect it up. So now you've got a water tank that you can use for connecting to a pump and irrigation. So another thing you might want to do at this point is to add some extra connections in here. So you can use the T-joins or elbow joins, and you can actually connect multiple tanks together and then have them run out to multiple vertical gardens. So for example, this one here I've connected with an extra line coming out. So if I wanted to run this from the pump sucking from 2 tanks, I would take this connection here and connect it to this tank. So when I connect the pump to this line here, it's actually going to be sucking from 2 tanks. So when you're doing that setup, you may want to add some extra isolation valves in there. So if you do only want to run it from 1 tank, it's just a simple matter of turning that one off, and it'll only draw from 1 tank. So once you've got your tank ready and you've got your frame built, it's just a matter of sliding this into position. So that should fit perfectly in there. So your extra connections, if you're not going to use them, just tuck them out of the way, and then you're ready to build the irrigation system. So that brings us up to step number 9, which is to set up the irrigation for this. So to set up your irrigation, you'll use the 13mm poly pipe, black poly pipe. So what you're going to do is use these connections here. So you've got elbow joins and T-joins, and you want to build it into a shape like this, and that is going to sit over here, and we'll fasten that on there so we can actually irrigate 3 rows of pots. In this case it's going to be the coconuts. And to make this as easy as possible to maintain, you want to make it so it's easily disconnectable from the pump. And to do that, we'll use these connections again, which we had connecting our water tank. So if we put that in here, that means we can disconnect it and take it apart if we want to take this whole section off and do anything to it. So here's an example of one that I've just prepared. So this will be this section connecting into our pump. So to show you an example of how to connect your irrigation, if you put in a T-join, once again put on the cobber clips first and then join them together. And then you can put in a row of irrigation. So in this case, it'll be just a row of black poly pipe. So you will actually need to put these drippers in yourself. So once you've got your connections, you fasten them up. So when you build it and you get it to that shape, it's not actually going to have these drippers in there, so you need to buy them and insert them separately. And to do that, I'll give you an example. So here's a little bit of black pipe. So what you want to do is work out where you want your drippers to go, poke a little hole, and then you get your dripper. This is a 4 litre per hour dripper, but you could get a 2 litre per hour dripper. That'd be no worries. The other benefit of this one is that it actually unscrews and you can clean it out if it gets blocked up with something. So these are really good. And then once you've got your hole, put it in and then just poke it into place. So that's in there now, and that'll drip. So now you've got your irrigation line in place, and as an example I'll use this piece here for the next step. So now that will be coming down to this section here, which we've designed to clip on and off. This section is going to connect to your pump. So here's a little pump. This is a little 12-volt pump that's going to run off a battery, and the way we're going to connect to our water tank to this pump is we're going to use a 10 mil clear tube. So that's 10 mil instead of the 13 mil, which will fit better on this little 12-volt pump. What you want to do though, because it is a 10 mil, it's a little bit smaller, you need to heat it up. So you can just use a lighter to do that, and just warm it up to make it soft, and it'll be easier to work with. Rotate it around. That should be just enough. So now that should fit on. Okay, so that is now connected there. And we'll put our copper clips on. Now we want to connect this section to this side of the pump. Normally you'll see a little arrow indicating which way the water is going to be flowing through. So here the arrow is pointing this way, which means the water is going to be pushing out this way. So this is our irrigation end. This side is going to be sucking water, so we do the same thing. We put our copper clip on first. We'll heat this up. Now that should slide on. Nice and snug. You can click that up. So then once you've connected that, you're pretty much ready to go to the next stage. So this is the pump. So you can see that the arrow is pointing that way. So we need to be drawing water from here. So that's our water tank. And then here is where it's pumping water out. So that is our irrigation. So that brings us up to step number 10, which is set up the electronics. So to set this up here, what you're going to need is some connections like this. So you can get these little spade connections, which will enable you to connect 2 wires together. So you'll need those sort of things. You'll need some wire cutters and some wire strippers. You'll need some wires like this, so black and red wire for your positive and your negative. And you'll also want to have some pliers and a soldering iron with a bit of solder if you're comfortable using that. So these little clips, you can put the wire in here and then squeeze it to clamp it shut on the wire, and then you can add a little bit of soldering wire there to solder it, so it'll be permanent. You'll also need a solar panel. That's a 20 watt, but you probably only need a 10 watt. You've got a charge controller, an automatic irrigation controller, and a 12-volt battery. That then connects together and powers the pump, which draws from the water tank and out to the irrigation line. So next we'll connect this all together, and I've drawn this out in a diagram here to show you how to do it step by step. If you like that video on building our DIY solar powered vertical garden, then make sure you subscribe and stay tuned, and jump on the website and check out our latest product, the TelePLANTathic vertical garden.